By the age of 4 or 5 years, my father instructed the local paramount chief to send me to a Catholic mission school, which was about 7 miles from my home village. So obviously that was a boarding school, so I was able to be taken there to avoid the difficulties of having to walk to school daily. Now, as a very young child, I was at first lost at what was actually all this about. I was lost at what was happening in the school. The regime was, very strange to me and so forth. But by the second and third year, I was beginning to settle in the school regime. Because it was a Catholic school, most of the teachers were nuns, obviously, Italian nuns, and then there were a few African teachers as well. Just as we were beginning to settle in 1963, the government of Sudan gave an order to expel all the white missionaries from South Sudan. The missionaries were expelled, the school was closed, and the pupils were transferred to a government-built school, which was now to be run in Arabic, and Friday was introduced as a day of rest instead of Sunday. Quran was made a compulsory subject, and Arabic was made to be the medium of instruction. So obviously, a lot of older pupils at that stage fled to Uganda in search of safety and education. Soon after that, the political situation in the country deteriorated. My father fled the country with my mother and younger siblings to Uganda. A year later, that was in 1964, my grandmother and I and other sibling cousins, we had to join the rest of the family in Uganda. Obviously, you will now imagine that as a refugee family, things were not going to be that very easy, and things were made a lot more difficult because in my own situation, both my parents were not there. So to grow up in a foreign country without both of your parents is very, very difficult. My grandmother was becoming a bit older. She was frail, so there wasn't too much which she could do. But for the generosity of the local people, we were given a huge plot of land where our house, a temporary house of grass thatch and mud walls, was built, and that was later on upgraded to a semi-permanent building. We got settled in the local community, started to produce our own food stuff, maize, groundnuts, peanuts, whatever, for our survival. And we were okay because we sort of had about 3 or so extended families, and all these families constructed the homestead in the same place. So after losing 2 years at school, of school, my father came and took me and my younger 2 brothers, and we were registered in a local Anglican primary school. That was in 1966. I was put in primary 4, and my younger brothers in a lower level. Now, the school was 2 miles from home, and you can imagine in a temporary structure of that nature, we didn't have electricity. There was no running water either. So that meant that every morning before we went to school, and especially if you were a girl child like me, and also the eldest, then you had other things to do before you actually go to school. So the normal routine included going to the river to fetch water, and coming back from school straight away into the kitchen to help grandma prepare the evening meal. And the care of the younger sibling was also an additional problem. So by the time you wanted to do your homework or do any study at all, you were already actually very, very tired. And if you had any little energy left, then you had a problem of lighting because we had to use kerosene lamp. And I don't know how many of you have actually seen a kerosene lamp or have used it, but you know it lights quite very, very dimly. So that's about my primary education. Now, we were in a foreign country. Obviously, education was not free in Uganda. Primary school children had to pay school fees. Now, my father was somewhere, I didn't know where. My mother was not there. So the only person who was able to support our school fees was an uncle we had who was in the US. He was doing his undergraduate studies at a university in the US. So he used to send us some of his stipend to support our school fees. And that's how we got by. By the time I was at the upper primary school, I had another uncle who had graduated from a high school in Kampala. And this uncle, instead of going for his own higher education, had to move in with us, with our family, the extended family, to help support us. So in a way, that was, a huge relief because it meant that, at least financially, things were, beginning to look up and look better. So we were able, for instance, to be able to afford new school uniforms and school, shoes. And then occasionally, at least once a year, Christmas dress, It was a big deal those days to have, a new dress for Christmas. Now, it's not like in the UK. There was no social security in Uganda, and I don't think there is now. So refugee families had to learn to be self-reliant, and that's how I spent my primary education years. And in spite of all the difficulties of relocation, cultural barrier, language barrier, what have you, I did very well at the end of my primary leaving examination and got admitted to a high school nearby. Now, I could have gone far, but my uncle was such a disciplinarian, he didn't want me to go fast, so he made sure that I was in a local high school so he could actually monitor my progress. And that's what happened, and I was happy, that was the case, because at least by the time now we got to high school, it was a boarding school, so the daily chores of a domestic, responsibility and so forth was no longer there. So one was able now to focus on one's education, and that's what happened. Now, in 1972, when I was in second year high school, my father suddenly visited the school, and he came and told me that, look, Josephine, I'm going back to Sudan, because by then the first peace agreement was signed. He said he was going back to Sudan with the rest of the family, but that he would leave me and my brother, who had just finished his primary education, he would leave us in Uganda to complete our education. And then he told me, he said, look, when you finish your high school, you can do whatever you want. If you want to continue with your education, you can do so. If you want to go to university, you are free to do so. And that sort of opened, my eye, and I say, okay, that's really good. So, 1974, I finished high school in Uganda, and then joined the rest of the family in Khartoum, in Sudan. That's where I went to university to do my undergraduate studies. And the system there was for undergraduate, you had to do 4 years. And if you wanted an honors degree, then it's 5 years. So I completed 5 years of undergraduate studies at Khartoum University and got my BA honors. I came and taught for 1 year in a local high school for girls, because that was now the first high school for girls that was ever built in the whole of South Sudan in its entire existence. When I was doing high school in Uganda, there was no single high school for girls in the 60s or early 70s in South Sudan. So in a way, if the war didn't break out, I wouldn't actually have got secondary education. Not at all. So I taught at the high school for 1 year, and then I was then admitted to, again, the first and the only university that was established in South Sudan at that time. And that was, it was established around 78, 77, 79. Now the university had 4 colleges. It had the College of Education, College of Medicine, College of Natural Resources, and College of Economics and Social Studies. I was admitted as a teaching assistant at the College of Education. So it was at that point that at least now I couldn't continue to resist the pressure to get married, which was quite intense when we were at the university. I got married in 1982. A year later, I had my first daughter. And then in 1984, came to UK to do a combined advanced diploma and master's degree in psychology of education at the University of London Institute of Education. At the same time, my husband had also come to do his own master's degree at the University of Loughborough. And right in the middle of my master's degree, I had my twin babies. I had a younger one and then the twins. My husband completed his master's degree and went back to Sudan. I was left with 3 children to look after, as well as writing my master's degree thesis. I had help, house help, and I persevered. And indeed, I managed to complete my master's degree in 1987, and then followed my husband back to Sudan. But then the University of Juba was already transferred to Khartoum because of the insecurity in South Sudan. And things, were not okay for the university. It didn't have a specific, location. All the colleges were scattered all over Khartoum, and so forth and so forth. There was difficulties of transport for students and for teachers, and so forth and so forth. So at that point, I decided that no, this is going to be difficult. So I came back to the UK to pursue my PhD degree in education at the same Institute of Education, University of London. Now that was a journey. It was a journey I wanted to take. It was a journey to, complete my academic ambition, my academic, aspirations. But I can tell you that it was a journey I was not able to complete. And you can work it out for yourself as to why. So, but, I would say not all is lost. Not all is lost, because I prayed at that time that, if I was not able to complete my own journey, then one day, other South Sudanese girls will be able to complete their educational journey. And I had not told the rest here before, but sometimes it's good to end something in a positive note in order to give hope. And Iba girls needs hope. South Sudan needs hope. So while I had to put my own PhD program on hold, I focused on my daughters, because I could see the potential. I could see, the opportunity, the educational opportunities here in this country. It's there, it's available. It's just up to whoever who wants it to take it. And I could see that, this would be a good opportunity for my daughters, so that when they graduate, they'll be able to work anywhere in the world. And last year, in 2014, My eldest daughter got her PhD degree from University College London in chemistry, and she's working here. One of my daughters also got a master's degree in physics, and she's teaching in North London School in this country. These are the sort of opportunities we want and we need for South Sudanese girls, because you give them the opportunity, they have the ability, they have the intelligence, they can do it.